For me, if I don't have a title, if I don't have the right title, the story's not done. The act of titling your work is actually a full revision.
Welcome to the StoryADay podcast. This is Julie Duffy from StoryADay.org, encouraging you to be a writer every day, not someday. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome back to the StoryADay podcast conversation with writer Rachael Swearingen. Rachael's the author of the short story collection How to Walk on Water and Other Stories. She has won a lot of writing prizes and been published in lots of great journals like Electric Lit, Vice, the Missouri Review, Kenyon Review, the Sand Journal. She won the Berlin Writing Prize, the Missouri Review Prize, and last time we talked about writing practice and some of the stories that she's written that she likes. This time I ask her that terrible question, what's your favourite story you've written? I ask her about the writers who are working now who she admires. We talk about the importance of community to writers and not just writing communities. And you get to hear Rachael turn the tables on me and ask me questions in my own interview and ask me about my writing. Let's go. What's your favourite story of yours? And I know this is like asking you to pick an impossible thing, but just if people are getting started with your short fiction, where would you direct them? What do you really like? Your secret favourites or your big favourites?
It's a really good question. It's shifted. So I think my favorite story right now is the one that that is coming out in Sand Journal. It'll be online soon, I think in a few weeks. And that one is called Clown Story. And again, at the L here in Chicago, the train has really inspired me in different ways. And that story came out of a weird incident right after, as people were starting to ride the train for the first time, and after the pandemic, and I was groped on the train. And I wanted to do something with that moment because it startled me. I'm older. This doesn't happen to me anymore. It really startled me. And so I tried to turn it into fiction, and I hated where it was going. But there is a moment in there where the story opened up for me in really fun ways. I got to have some fun with that moment and kind of transform the energy and create a character who just does some crazy things. And yeah, that one was a lot of fun for me. As far as from the collection, I don't know that I have a favorite. I really curated this collection and tried to choose stories that all play with that line between the imagined and the real. And so they all are slightly either hyper real or there's a little strangeness to all of them. And I think the one that I'm attached to the most is The Only Thing Missing Was the Howling of Wolves. And that one is, I rarely write stories that are set in the area that I grew up in, Wisconsin, or in that sort of that type of that rural Midwest. But that one comes from that material and has a lot of suspense and characterization, deeper characterization.
Why don't you write about the world you come from or the place you come from, do you think?
I don't know. It's a good question. I keep trying. And I think part of it is that even as a kid, I was always interested in, this is where I get in trouble, but I think it's also a gift. I'm always interested in what I don't know. And so it tends to take me into places that go away from me, which then can cause problems when I don't have enough information. But yeah, and I don't know, I always tell myself that as I get older, I will go back there and do more with that material. And then I get older and I still haven't done much, but maybe it's coming. I think I might try some scripts that are set more in that part of the Midwest.
Now, is that screenwriting or playwriting?
A screenwriting. I still want to try to write a play, but I haven't done it yet.
I love taking the incident on the train, which is obviously not a fun incident, and then taking some of the power back. I think I'm looking forward to reading that story, let's just say. And you seem to be very good at titles. Can we talk about that a little bit? Because sometimes people will title stories The Box or something like that, but you've got a clown story, The Only Thing Missing Is the Howling of Wolves. What's your approach to titles?
Titles are so important for me. So I feel always a little disappointed when a title is just too obvious or it doesn't add something extra, because why have a title if it's not going to add a little something extra? But that also is, I also think titles are one of the hardest things. And for me, they're usually the last thing. Although the last two short stories I read, I had the titles immediately and I decided to not keep trying new ones. They just felt right. And so often for me, if I don't have a title, if I don't have the right title, the story's not done. And I think that this is not for me, but I think it was a poetry teacher that said that the act of titling your work is actually a full revision.
Oh, that's interesting.
So when you resist putting a title on your new work, like a lot of my students might write new story and they put that as their like exercise number 1, and that'll be their title. Having to think through a title, a bad title, or the wrong title, it sends you in a direction, makes you think about what's going on with the story as a whole in a deeper way. And you toss a title out and you have to go through this sort of thinking process of, this title doesn't work because it's not about blank. There's a whole revision that you might have written going down that lane where the story was about a certain thing. And so you didn't actually have to rewrite the story to throw that idea out.
Oh, that's interesting. I think for the next StoryADay May, I'm going to have to give people permission to not worry about their titles, because that's actually could take them the whole day. And stop them from moving on to the next story, because the point is doing a lot of play that month.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. What do you think is the most interesting short stuff being published at the moment that you've run across by other people? So what's exciting you?
Trying to think. There are so many. Of course, I want to turn around and take a look at my bookshelf.
Yeah.
Actually, Danielle Avon's book, she writes really fantastic fiction. There's quite a few of her stories are online. I've been very excited by what she writes. Sarah Shinleen Bynum's collection, Likes, is really great too. So those are two writers that I think are doing really cool things. And I think you've had Carolyn Kim on your program. I really love her story collection, and she's got a lot of really interesting ideas for new ones too that I'm hoping will be coming out soon.
Excellent. That's good to hear. And yeah, I've interviewed Gwen Kirby recently, who has some twisty stories that might surprise people. A lot of fun. Yeah. And then lastly, I wanted to ask you about, do you have a lot of connections with people in the writing world? Do you find that's valuable, or are you more of a solitary writer?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I have a lot of friends in the writing world, which I didn't always have that. I think my friends were lived in books. And so I think having a writing community and other people that are in it with you is so great. If you've got another writer, I think one of the things that's so good about it is that for me, like I had some writers that I knew from my PhD program who went on and did really fantastic things. And I got to watch them as their books came out, and they went through the stress of that, and the disappointments and the highs and the lows. And I was watching some of that from afar, and it taught me some things. Having those examples out there was really good for me, because I was like, I'm not going to get caught up in that, which is easier said than done. And then having like friends who I love, love, love their work, and there's no reason in the world why it shouldn't be published and out in the world. And watching them go through rejections and questioning themselves, that also is really instructive, because it teaches you to be kinder to yourself as well. And then there's just like what you're doing out in the world, and what you're do in May, like getting all that energy going, and the StoryADay idea and all the prompts that you share, all of that stuff. That's really fun. And it keeps you going, and it gives you a tiny audience, which most of us, that's all we need is in order to at least keep the work going. All of that is fantastic. I do think it's really important to also have a community outside of the writers world, and have like your communities with people who are not literary people, because I think we can get a little too cloistered too.
Yeah, but yes, we don't all want to be writing novels about writers with friends who are all writers. I lied. There's one more question I want to ask you, and that is, what's the question that when you've done interviews you wish people would ask you, or the thing you wish people would ask you about but they never do? This
is so funny, because this is the kind of thing I would ask someone else, and I'm not sure what that question is, but can I turn this around, do the thing you're never supposed to do in an interview and turn it around a little bit? Because I'm really curious to know how your own writing is going right now and what you're up to.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm discovering that I have seasons for my writing. I'm more creative at certain times of the year, and I'm learning to be okay with that. I feel like I'll binge for a while and then live for a while. And so, yeah, I'm in a bit of a writing place at the moment. I'm trying to revise some stuff. And then as May comes along, there's a lot of prep for that. So I tend to get excited about writing. Then by the time May comes along, I'm like ready to write again, and then of course summer gets a bit more quiet. Yeah, so I'm working on revising some novels that I've finished in the past few years, and I shouldn't really say this, but I haven't written anything very short for a while. I started a new short story recently. But yeah, it's interesting because I spend a lot of time talking to writers and reading, and remembering to actually write as well is a good day.
Yeah, I can imagine. We do so many of these, and that's really interesting about the season. So right now is one of your writing seasons then? And in the summer it slows down, you said?
Yeah, it tends to be like, I think it's that academic year programming that kicks in. Like by September, I'm itching to sit down and write all the time. And then the Christmas season is very busy, but I'm always reading a lot then. And then January, February, it's dark and there's not as much energy for writing, but
Right.
But yeah, so I feel like there's definitely seasons, but September is always, let's go. Yeah. So thank you for asking about that. So people should look for Clown School coming out in Sand soon. What else have you got going on that you might want to share? Or where can people find out more about you and your writing?
You can find out more on my website, which is at rachelswearingen.com. And let's see, what else do I have going on? I wrote my first movie script and I've revised it a few times, and I'm starting a new one, so that's fun. And I've been reading poetry every morning, which I did years ago, and I come back to it again. And then I write a poem every morning just to warm up. I hope they will never see the light of day, but they're really great warm-ups for fiction writers.
Yeah, and that sort of concentration of language. And what genre are you writing movies in?
So I think the movie I finished would probably be more of an international indie film. The new one that I'm working on is it's an adaptation of a couple of the stories that are rolled together. And then the new one that I'm writing is also an adaptation of a short story, the one that I told you about that takes place in the rural Midwest. So
that's fab. Thank you very much for being here with us and chatting about writing. I hope it's been fun, and happy writing to you.
Thank you so much, Julie. It was a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for listening. Why not come over to the blog at StoryADay.org and check out this week's writing prompts and articles. And in the meantime, have a great creative week, and of course, keep writing.